Okay, look, I want to bring in. I would like
him to answer my question. Why is that considered a trope?
Okay.
Why is it considered a trope to be concerned about American soldiers during these endless, nonsensical wars? Why is that considered a trope?
How many times have you gone to Arlington and paid your respect to American heroes?
I'm not talking to you, Conriquez, you terrorist piece of crap. I'm talking to the general.
Okay,
tell me why that's
please keep the ad hominem down.
Have you honored the memory of fallen American soldiers?
Can we go back to the?
Have you paraded?
Answer the question.
Dying on behalf of Israel.
I'm not going to dignify that with a response.
Let me read you what Israeli media has been saying. So American soldiers came under friendly fire in Kuwait. I don't know if any of them have died. Hopefully none of them have died. But on Channel 12, Niv Raskin said this: "We need to emphasize this is an incident involving American forces and not, heaven forbid, an incident involving Israeli forces."
What's up, guys? Welcome back. So today we're looking at a Piers Morgan panel that honestly got way messier than anyone expected, and for good reason. This segment was supposed to be a standard debate about the U.S. strikes on Iran, but it turned into something else entirely when Anna Kasparian asked a simple question that a retired general flat out refused to answer. Not couldn't answer, refused. And then Glenn Greenwald came in and basically laid out every war the U.S. has stumbled into in the last 30 years, and nobody on the other side had a response. By the end of it, even the people defending the current situation were quietly agreeing with the people questioning it. I'm going to break down exactly what happened and what I think it means. Stay till the end, because I got a take on this that I don't think anyone else is making.
Piers, you and I have been around a long time. We went through Iraq together. The fact is, I think that Starmer just did not want to be referred, as Tony was, as the British poodle. So I think what he wanted to do is give it a little bit of time, make it look like this is an independent decision of his, rather than being, we do have a special relationship, but we're not tied at the hips, and Britain is not a proxy for the United States. We knew, particularly if the Iranians started firing back, that Britain would come in the way that the Saudis and the Emiratis have come in. And one last comment. Anna, please quit using the tropes on American soldiers. I've had to bury 7 American soldiers. They went into the battlefield.
How is it a trope? How is it a trope? How is it a trope to see American soldiers die on behalf of Israel's wars? How is that a trope? Explain that to me.
Nobody's dying on behalf of Israel.
I'm not going to dignify that with a response.
Let me read you what Israeli media has been saying. So American soldiers came under friendly fire in Kuwait. I don't know if any of them have died. Hopefully none of them have died. But on Channel 12, Niv Raskin said this: "We need to emphasize this is an incident involving American forces and not, heaven forbid, an incident involving Israeli forces."
And why is he representative of anything, Anna? Who makes him representative of anything? Why are you
This is a huge figure
in
Israeli media.
No,
saying
he's not
this
a
out
huge
loud.
figure. He's a talking head on
Sacrificing
a
American
morning
soldiers
show.
is totally okay, I guess.
Well, okay. Look, I want to bring in. I
would like him to answer my question. Why is that considered a trope?
Okay.
Why is it considered a trope to be concerned about American soldiers during these endless, nonsensical wars? Why is that considered a trope?
How many times have you gone to Arlington and paid your respect to American heroes?
I'm not talking to you, Conriquez, you terrorist piece of crap. I'm talking to the general.
Okay,
tell me why that's
please keep the ad hominem down.
Have you honored the memory of fallen American soldiers?
Can we go back to the?
Answer the question.
Can I bring some order to this, please? Jonathan, let me conduct the panel, please, because Glenn's been waiting very patiently. Before I come to you, Glenn, and I will give you plenty of time to speak, I can promise you that. General, just explain why you consider that to be a trope. And secondly, I was really struck by this friendly fire incident because I can't remember, I'm sure you will be able to correct me here, but has it ever happened before that 3 American fighter jets have all been downed in a friendly fire incident, apparently here by Kuwaiti forces by mistake as they went over Kuwaiti airspace? Can you remember 3 American fighter jets going down in friendly fire in one incident?
No. And I'm sure those Kuwaiti soldiers that fired those shots will remember that for the rest of their lives. Luckily, none of the soldiers, none of the airmen were killed. They got out of their aircraft. alive and relatively unhurt. We call it the fog of war.
Yeah, and in relation to the
why is it a trope?
fact you think it's a, yeah, I think be fair to Anna Kasparian, just answer her question why you view that as a trope, what she said.
I'm not going to dignify it with a response.
You just want to smear me with nonsensical claims, but you can't even answer why you even believe in the smear. What is the trope? You can't answer it, right?
I'll tell you
being
why.
concerned about Americans dying on behalf of
no, I want to come to Glenn.
Apparently a trope.
Okay,
everything that offends Israel is a trope.
Total hypocrite.
Right.
That's
okay,
what you
the
are.
general.
You're a total
Listen,
hypocrite.
the general's chosen not to respond. That's his right. I want to go to Glenn. Glenn, you've been waiting very patiently. Thank you. Look, this is a story. That's a lot of passions are going to run very high here. You know, I don't have all the answers to what I think is going to happen here. It does, to me, bring back a lot of bad memories from the Iraq War, you know, which was started in many people's eyes who perpetrated it for the best of intentions. Saddam was a bad guy, doing bad things to his people, killing many of them, running a ruthless regime, possessing weapons of mass destruction, and he had to be stopped. You know, I've been on this rodeo of rhetoric before, and it feels to me like we're on a very similar path now, but Iran is an altogether bigger and more difficult scenario than even Iraq was. You know, you've got 220,000 Revolutionary Guard. You have nearly 1 million regular army. You have many other paramilitaries, you know, hundreds of thousands more. This idea that America has, or Donald Trump has, that by doing these strikes, you're going to start a big revolution amongst the people on the ground. You know, they've got to get past 1.5 million very heavily armed people that will try and stop them. And we saw recently they stopped 30,000 of them by killing them. So do you think that the mission here is even achievable? And do you think what has happened is legal?
I am glad, Piers, that we started the segment with Mike Pence, because he is an American elected official who voted for the Iraq War in 2002, 2003, continued to defend it for many years. And unlike many American politicians who did that, who ended up saying they regretted it or it was a mistake, Mike Pence, to this very day, believes that going into Iraq was the right thing to do. And everything that he said in justification and defense of this new war was exactly the things that he and all the other American leaders who wanted this war in 2002 and 2003 were saying then. But it's not just the Iraq war. It's also exactly what happened in Libya. President Obama said, oh, don't worry, this isn't a regime change war. It's just to protect the people of Benghazi, and that it ended up being a regime change war that destroyed Libya. It's what we did in Afghanistan, where we were told, oh, we're just going in to get Osama bin Laden. And then 20 years later, our troops leave, trillions of dollars spent, huge numbers of dead, and the Taliban march right back into power. And you can even go back to Vietnam, where we were lied into that war, lied through that war by many of the same people who telling us now that we have to do this. It is astounding to me that somebody like Mike Pence or so many other people who lied to the public continuously, led our country into disastrous wars, one after the next, are now just speaking as though none of it ever happened. It would be like as if a journalist, I published 8 or 9 different fraudulent stories with fake quotes and fake sources. And then the next day I woke up and said, oh, I know I did those things in the past, but I think I should still have credibility for you to listen to my reporting today, even though I did all of that. The other point I want to make is, I want to ask Jonathan, because I mean, honestly, it is very, very difficult, I have to confess, not just for me, but for the world, as the polls show, to listen to an Israeli official in an Israeli accent give lectures on the need to have compassion for civilians after everything we just watched Israel do, vaporizing tens of thousands of people in Gaza, all throughout the Middle East, attacking countries. But since he is here, I do want to ask him, Jonathan, there's a lot of reports in mainstream Western press about how the IDF has built its primary military and intelligence structures, not just within key residential areas in Tel Aviv, but also underneath. Is it true that the IDF has built key military and intelligence targets within residential areas of Tel Aviv and beneath residential targets in Tel Aviv, the way that the Western media has continuously reported? Is that actually true?
Yeah, I can give a relatively short and plain answer to it. Surprising question. I've read some of your reporting and you seem like an informed guy. But yes, the IDF headquarters, referred to as the Kiryat, is indeed located in Tel Aviv. It is surrounded by civilian buildings, and inside the headquarter, not underneath civilians, but underneath the headquarter itself is a bunker, which is not a revolutionary concept of militaries. And that bunker is a few stories below ground. Its name is indeed the Zion Citadel. And that is where some of the Israeli officers, generals conduct military operations from. I suppose some of the strikes, if not all of the strikes that are ongoing in Iran today, are managed from there. When Iran targeted that location, they've targeted it now. They have targeted it in the past, and Hezbollah has targeted it in the past, and so have many others. You actually never heard anybody in Israel, definitely not anybody official, say, that isn't okay, and it's not a military target. It is a military target. We cannot move Tel Aviv out of the way, and the base is probably too big to move out of the way. And if it is hit, then it is on Israel, because it is a military target. But there is a very big difference here between doing that, having a properly marked and disclosed location, which is the IDF base. Everybody knows that it's there. And doing what our enemies do, which is hide underneath and between the civilian population, disguised as civilians and using civilians as human shields. There are no civilians above the base used as human shields. And there are no civilians that are told to be in a certain location so that our enemies won't strike.
Okay.
Because that's a cowardly thing to do. Yeah.
Pierre, can I
just
make one quick point? Can I just make one quick point about the moral aspect that you raised? You said none of us should be mourning a vicious dictator. And the one thing, the two quick things I will say about that is, we were told that about Saddam Hussein. We were told that about Muammar Gaddafi. Certainly in Libya, we were told, oh, Muammar Gaddafi said that's certainly a good thing. What came after in Libya was some of the worst, most nightmarish dystopia that the world has seen in the past 50 years, certainly far worse than what it had under Gaddafi. And I think a lot of this depends on what succeeds in Iran. Is it going to be this incredibly destroyed state, balkanized with anarchy, where ISIS and Al-Qaeda can fill the power vacuum as they did with the invasion of Iraq? Is it going to be an even worse tyrant like the Shah of Iran was, or some other worse militias and factions? And then the other point is, it's a little bit hard to hear the United States and Great Britain and other countries say, oh, we're doing this for the moral reason that we want to cleanse Iran of tyranny, when our closest allies and partners in that region that we prop up and give military technology and spying technology are at least as savage and brutal dictatorships as Iran is. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the Emiratis, going throughout the rest of the world to Uganda, Rwanda. We love dictatorships. We prop up tyrannies all the time. I think it's very hard to make a moral case, especially as you're bombing civilian places all throughout Iran, that we somehow are doing this because we want to bring freedom and democracy to the Iranian people. The last time we did change the government in Iran, we imposed a horrific dictator on them for 20, 30 years called the Shah of Iran. And now we want to do it with his son. So these moral questions are much more complex than, is the Ayatollah a good or a bad guy?
Okay, Goldie Gamara, you were rolling your eyes there.
We should have no moral reasons at all. Again, there was no morality in our negotiations last Thursday for no nukes, no missiles, and no proxies. And I don't think if we start getting into the moral regime change, everything you're describing, Glenn, if we're trying to get into another Iraq, that's the mission creep we don't want to see. We are now using the military force to achieve the end state that our negotiations weren't able to do. And candidly, I also agree with you that we shouldn't completely wipe out the leadership of the country.
I watched a lot of Piers Morgan panels over the years, and most of them follow the same pattern. People talk over each other, nobody actually says anything, and you walk away feeling like you wasted 15 minutes of your life. This one was different, and what made it different wasn't some big-name politician or a famous academic. It was Anna Kasparian asking one question that the entire panel just couldn't handle. Here's what got me. The general dismisses her concern about American soldiers dying in foreign wars by calling it a trope. Now think about what that word actually means when you use it in an argument. You're not saying the person is wrong. You're saying their concern isn't even worth treating as real. It's just a tired cliche, something people say. And Anna doesn't bite back emotionally. She doesn't go off on a tangent. She just stops the whole conversation cold and says, "Okay, explain it. Tell me why worrying about American soldiers getting killed is a cliche." That's it. That's the whole move. And he has nothing. This is a retired general who literally just told the panel he buried 7 of his soldiers. And he cannot explain why caring about soldiers dying is somehow cheap or manipulative. He says he won't dignify it with a response. But here's the thing. That line only works as a power move if you actually have an answer you're choosing not to give. When you genuinely have no answer, it just sounds like what it is. Then Glenn comes in and does something you almost never see done well on live television. He stops talking about the present entirely and pulls the camera all the way back. Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan, Vietnam. And his point isn't just we've been here before. It's that it's the same voices, the same framing, the same specific promises every single time. And he uses this comparison that's so straightforward it almost sounds too simple, but it lands hard. He says it's like a journalist who published story after story with fake sources and made-up quotes, got caught every time, and then showed up the next morning asking you to trust their reporting again. No apology, no acknowledgement, just here's why this time is different. And we're all supposed to go along with it like none of the previous disasters actually happened. What really stuck with me by the end of all this is how the dynamic shifted. The people who came on that panel to make the case for what's happening right now, by the final few minutes, were nodding along to arguments about mission creep and the dangers of toppling governments. They weren't pushing back anymore. And that almost never happens. When a side defending a position quietly starts agreeing with the people questioning it, that's usually a sign that something genuinely true got said out loud, and there was just no clean way to argue against it. So I want to know what you took from this. Which moment actually stopped you? Drop it in the comments, because I think this is exactly the kind of conversation that deserves more attention than it's going to get.